You're doing the work. You're showing up. You're posting, you're praying, you're planning, and you're still wondering, why doesn't it feel like it's moving anything forward? Well, today's guest isn't here to give you another productivity hack like all the other gurus. She's here to confront the one thing that's quietly killing your influence. And it's not fear. It's the lie that you're not valuable, that your story doesn't matter, that you have to do it all alone. And it's not even about how you look. It's not about the odds that are stacked against you, because this guest is an absolute game changer. She's a force of influence who has defied every limitation and every label that the world has thrown at her. She's a single mom. She was born with a rare syndrome and leading a global movement today. Not because it was easy, but because she believed what God said about her was greater than anything that could ever come against her. This conversation will wake you up to your worth, calling out your excuses, and to show you that your influence starts with identity. So my friends, sit back, kick back, and let's get started, for this is the School of Influence. The School of Influence, where legends are made and legacies are started. Interviews and insights to grow your impact on social media, networking, and stages. Class is now in session.
We're gonna take on the world.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm your host, Devin Schubert, also known as the Man in Orange, and I'm excited to bring you another session of the School of Influence. Today's guest is a powerhouse of heart and healing. She's a certified Christian mental health coach. She's the founder of the TIP groups, a speaker, a podcast host, and the author of brand new The Joy Catcher book. But this is what makes her unforgettable, is the way that she lives her life through adversity with purpose. She leads with empathy, and she teaches others how to reclaim their value through the voice of God, not only the noise of culture. From single motherhood to ministry leadership, from physical challenges to bold influence, she is the real deal. So grab your notebook, take a breath, lean in, and help me welcome my friend, Bethany Boring. All right, welcome to my friend, Bethany Boring. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for taking time to be on this show of the School of Influence. We're so excited to be able to dive into your story about what God's done in your life and how you've grown in influence against all odds against you. So get us started. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story about how you have kind of started off with life.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love being on here and I love being with all the orange. Just saying. So this is so good. So my name is Bethany Boring. I'm currently a mental health coach, but when I started this whole journey, like you mentioned, Devin, and it's so cool that we connected around this, is that a couple years ago with all my physical and challenges that I have, and so I'll back up just a little bit. For those that know me, I have Charge syndrome, and what Charge syndrome is each letter, CHARGE, stands for something different. I'll let you have fun Googling that. I'm not going to go into all that here, but all you all need to know is that I have vision loss, I have hearing loss, I have a short right hand, arm here, I have a pacemaker, I have a lot of other just different challenges that I've had ever since birth. And one thing I learned from the get-go is that when I realized I had some of these challenges, I knew that I wanted to be just like everybody else. Because that's where beauty, I thought, came from, was being just like everybody else and getting my value that way. And so I tried. And so even now, I'm currently a single mom of 3 amazing boys. I own my own business. I used to drive. I still do zip lining and skydiving and all that good stuff. Like, I don't let anything hold me back. Like, I don't know what that means. That's a whole nother issue. But saying all that is that how I got to where I am now is that a couple years ago, I ran into doctors that told me, you know what, your vision and hearing are getting worse and there's nothing we can do to correct it. And that was kind of my downfall. That was the first time that I really had boundaries hit me in the head. And I really had to think about, okay, like I'm not Superwoman, dang it. And God, yes, I really do need you. And I needed him before, but it was a whole nother level. When you start losing your vision and hearing, everything changes. And all of a sudden, I had to just be aware of my limitations, but also be aware of the power of God and what He can help me see and hear through that. And so that's really where I came to where I am today. It's just really helping people experience God in brand new ways. That's life giving ways. Even if their outside looks like everything's going crazy, God is just moving and doing amazing things. And so to stay true to that.
Yeah. And it seems like there was just so many things that continually came against you. So many things that, for a normal person would have been like, I just don't, how can I keep on going? Like all these labels, all these things coming against me. Tell us a little bit about like that thought process of when they told you, you're losing your eyesight, you're losing your hearing, you may never do things that a quote unquote normal person would do. Tell us kind of what your thought process is, because I'm sure that there's some listeners and some viewers that are like, wow, that's, or that they're in that same spot of maybe they just got some devastating news or something on their own. So tell us a little bit about what that looked like. Well, pardon the interruption, but let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like your story was meant to impact thousands or millions of lives, but you literally just didn't know where to start? Did you know that there is over 2.9 billion people watching social media every single day? That's literally the biggest stage in the entire world. And yet most people are completely invisible on it. Why? Because they don't know how to tell their story in a way that actually connects to other people. And that, my friends, is exactly why I created Stories to Stages. We help you craft your entire story, professionally edit your video, and then we publish it across all major platforms. Plus, I'm going to give you access to my entire storytelling bootcamp. This is over $25,000 worth of value, but right now you can get the entire thing for just $7. $7. Because this isn't just a course, this is a launching pad. We've helped people with no audience, no experience, finally share their story with confidence and to get real reach. Because your story told in the right way involves and moves people. So go to stories2stages.com and grab your $7 spot with the code of podcast1. Your story was not meant to stay silent. So let's get seen, let's get heard, let's get paid, and let's set people free. So go to stories2stages.com, grab your $7 spot, and use the code podcast1 and get yours today. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. Well, my process with that was, it's hard because, okay, first of all, just keeping it real. When we're going through rough stuff, people say the dumbest things. I mean, can we just be real? I wanted to tell people and I wanted people to be with me, but I realized there wasn't a whole lot of that. And I had to look for that. I had to find that. But also second is just, I needed space to cry, Devin. I needed space to just be. And that was a whole process for me because I had to be there for my kids. And they now want me to call them young men. I have 3 boys, so they're not boys anymore. According to them, they're men. We're going through all that. But anyway, so, I had to be strong for them. And at some point during all of that, it just came crashing where I realized my kids saw me cry. My kids saw me be real. And that was the most freeing part, is the most terrifying part. But it was the most freeing part too, because God was right with me and all that. Like I had permission to be authentic and real, and it opened up things for my boys too. So they'd be real and talk about what they're going through. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of my journey. There's a lot more to it, but that's what's coming out right now.
Yeah. So are you saying that it's okay to cry? It's okay to be vulnerable? It's okay to be authentic? As professionals, as speakers, as influencers, we got to show up perfect every day on social media. Are you saying that that's not true?
Not true at all. And I used to believe that. I really did. I really did. Well, and can we be real? With my church experience and ministry experience, if you're on the platform, if you're on the stage, it was kind of presented to me anyway that I'd have my act together. Especially, and I mean, this is a nice way, I have to okay to mention this, but as a woman in the church setting, there was a whole nother pressure because you had to be perfect. Like you are representing the women, just like if you ever got a mic, at least in my realm, you really had to have your stuff together. And I realized somewhere along this way is that when I really started talking about my physical challenges, that was a place where I could just let everything down. And regardless of who it was, it kind of let all the walls just crumble. It was like that safe ground, like, because we all struggle. We all have crud in our lives where we struggle. And pain, although it can separate us, it can also be the most unifying part because we can always relate to that. And so that's
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Pain can cause us to step away, but it's also should be and could be a drawing point to draw us closer together. Wow, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. And the only way that we can be drawn together in that way is by sharing it, is by being open, is by being vulnerable. And so I'm sure that there's boundaries in that, who you share certain things with. How do you know, what those boundaries are? And when did you learn to kind of take that next step up of just being like, hey, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. I'm Bethany Boring. If you don't like it, peace out. Don't care.
so boundaries as of being together with people. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, can we just be real? I still struggle with that, just keeping it real. I still struggle with boundaries and who to really trust. But I think one analogy that I've thrown out, and this is what I work with clients when we're trying to find groups, because we shouldn't be doing life by ourselves, right? But one of the reality is that, you know what? We all have, if we can imagine, our big nuggets in our life, the big things that we really want to take care of. They're almost like these eggs, right? And the price of eggs have gone up, so it really does have value. So anyway, each of us have these eggs, right? And you only want to trust a person with one egg at a time. You don't want to give your whole carton. That doesn't make any sense. So let's see how they handle this one piece of my life and see if they can hold it well. See if they're not trying to fix it, seeing if they're not trying to advise me. My goodness, maybe they'll even ask what I want from them. No? And just, my goodness, how do they deal with that? And then begin that relationship with both. But then you also have to hold some of their stuff too. So how do we do that well? And so that's been an advice for some of my people, because I think we want it so much. We all want to be seen. We all want to be known. But a lot of us don't have these relational skills. That takes practice. That takes community. That takes two different people wanting to work on it together. And so just to be aware of that and to find those communities. They are there. We have to look for it. But the more we know what to look for, the easier it becomes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What would you say would be kind of like a daily rhythm? What would be a place where people can start to practice implementing these things, even if they, we'll talk about community in a few minutes. I want to come back to that. But what are some of those daily rhythm things that you implemented and maybe that you help other people implement as well?
Yeah. So the first thing that I love talking about is interactive appreciation, because it's one of those things that people are like, oh, I know, I do the alphabet, A's for apple, B's for, I don't know, bunny. I don't know. I always have a fruit thing going on this morning. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about at all. Because here's the thing, God wants to be with us, right, Devin? God wants to be with us. And a lot of times we're so fast of like, okay, I got to get my appreciation in so I can what? Go email people, go do what I need to do with my business, go take care of my kids, which is true. But God's like, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. It's like, I really need time with you. And what does that really look like? And so what I've learned to do is a practice called interactive appreciation, where I let God, this is a whole nother thing. I let God bring to my mind a moment where I got to really experience his love. And here's the thing, when we really trust God enough to bring that to our minds, that frees us of trying to figure it out and trying to get it right. Like when the way that works in our brain is that when we're actually letting ourselves connect with God, we're in our frontal lobes. When we're trying to get it right, we're in this fight, flight, freeze. No wonder we can't connect. I can't hear God. Well, duh. I wonder why. And we're preventing ourselves from even connecting. So when we really trust God enough to go, okay, God, you love me so much that I trust you to really bring to mind a moment where I got to experience you. And then you stop, whatever it is that he brings to you. Okay, God, what did I see in that moment? What did I smell in that moment? What did I taste in that moment? What did I hear in that moment? What did I feel in that moment? What was going on with my body? Was I sitting? Was I standing? Tell me more about that moment. So you actually get to invite yourself back into that appreciation moment. When's the last time we've given ourselves the opportunity to do that? Like, that's not normal. We're trying to find out the next thing we need to fix, the next thing we need to take care of. We don't do well at allowing God to really take care of us. So when he brings that moment back and we bring all that back, it's a way of really allowing God to speak to me in a brand new way. And I'm able to be with him. And that's where I want to start. It doesn't mean I stay in that appreciation moment all day, but I start with that. And that really carries with me, carries our conversation, me and God's conversation throughout the rest of the day. And it allows me to see, wait, this is my boys and I have even stopped. Like, we're having an appreciation moment right now. Like, this is so weird. But it's just things that you look for. And yeah, so I don't know if that brings up any questions or curiosity on your side, but that's one thing that I practiced, and it really does keep me rooted in my days.
Yeah, I love that, and it reminds me of the book of James, and I think it's, chapter 1 or chapter 2, where it talks about looking in the mirror, and how, when we look in the mirror, we should see the reflection of Christ. And so when we start off with those interactive appreciations, I feel like there's that saying, that quote of, when you get out of bed and your feet hit the ground, you want the devil to say, "Oh crap, she's up. Oh crap, he's up." And so if we don't begin the day by stepping into our identity, if we don't begin the day of God reminding us and putting on that mind of Christ, then it's impossible for us to step into that influence, into that influential role, into that leadership role. And so it's all about what I hear you saying is God speaking to us. And when we listen to him first, your value then isn't something that you need to earn. It's something that you begin to carry, and you begin to carry throughout that entire day. And so
Yeah.
I hear you saying, a point of this is don't begin your day without remembering your worth, because your worth is what's going to carry your day from start to finish.
Yeah. And then here's the thing with that too. Big thing of that is you don't necessarily get to define your own worth, because a lot of times we're like looking and we already define ourselves, right? At least if you're anything like me, you look in the mirror in the morning like, ugh. And a new practice with that, by the way, a new practice with that I'm starting is every time I see myself in the mirror, I literally give myself a high five. And that's supposed to like do something in your brain, I've heard. And it really has looked. It's really helped me. So that's one thing that I've done too. But also, when I listen to God to define my worth, it changes my story as well. But it keeps me humble because I'm asking him to define my worth. I'm not trying to earn it. I'm not trying to, oh yeah, well, yesterday somebody said, well, that's awesome, but that's fleeting, right? I want something that's going to continue and growing, and I want to hear his voice above everybody else's. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, it is God crafting our story. And one of the things that I talk about so often is that so many people think that God is just up there writing our entire story for us. And while he has the ability to do that, he partners with us to write the story, because we're not just robots that he's up there, or puppets, just controlling. He's giving us the option to be able to walk that out. And so when we walk in our identity, when we give ourselves high fives, I love that interaction with yourself in the mirror. It is helping us be confident in our story and who God has created us to be, who our influence gets to be to those all around us. And Bethany, that's a main reason of why God has put me on this mission to help 1 million people share their stories across media, is because your story is like a seed. And I was just talking to somebody just before this. You were messaging me saying, "Yeah, it might be a few minutes late. I need to record." And I'm like, "Oh, good. I'm just finished a recording. I lost track of time of messaging back and forth with somebody." And what God showed me is he showed me that, I've talked about how stories are seeds that you plant inside of somebody else. And what he showed me was the process that we're going through right now of writing our story, our testimonies of different things throughout our life, is that he's shifting and molding that DNA inside of that seed, whether it be a human seed, whether it be a plant seed, whatever. But he's molding that DNA. And for scientific people who believe in, long form evolution, that it took us billions of years to become the humans and organisms that we are today, that seed, that business, that story would take millions and billions of years to form inside of that seed. But with God and with our influence and with our identity, he does it like that. And that could be a year, That could be a couple of years, but it's not a million years. And so think about, the molding and the shifting as you're looking inside of the mirror, as you're looking at your worth and how important that is. And then he showed me that these seeds were now planted inside of the fruit. And the fruit is not for us, it's for others to pick and take and be able to swallow the seeds and they begin to reproduce your DNA. And here's what the Lord told me. He was saying that it's very important that you formulate the DNA inside of the seed the way that I want it, because it is reproducible infinity, eternally, continually reproduced, and you don't have to remake it again. And so if we do it right, we do it God's way, and we find our worth, we step into our identity, and we do it with God, our influence is completely it's there's no limit. There's no limit to it at all. And so when we step into our fullness of who we are and we learn how, what does it look like to then transition with that and begin going to find other people? Because just started to share about the community aspect. We're not meant to do this alone. And so how does that kind of unfold in your eyes?
Yeah, no, first of all, Devin, I think that's the first time I've heard you completely share about the whole seed analogy. I feel like I've heard parts of it. That was beautiful. I'm just sitting here with that. I'm like, it unlocks so many things actually as I'm thinking about that. And so that whole idea of growing, we should be growing together. It's not something that we do just alone with God. Like He created us to be with other people. So we experience if other people are doing what we're just talking about here with the seeds and allowing the DNA to form and allowing us to just really be with Him. And I almost like the word marinate, but it's not. You're not marinating the seeds. So maybe just allowing them to, develop, right? If we're all developing, we need each other. We need God, but we need each other because we find God, just like you talked about, in others' fruit, right? And so if we're all doing this together, it amazes the amplification process in it. And so one thing that I've learned in this is that a lot of us do not have what we call safe places. We just talked about like that a little while ago, is that we've all had those experiences where if we're going through something hard or we're trying to connect with other people and there's a failure, there's a falling out, there's something where we share and that person doesn't respond the way that we want them to or that we think that they should, what do? We usually stop and we cut it off. Well, that's why I really believe in groups that can come together that are practicing, hey, what does it really look like to just sit with someone and not fix? What does that really look like to listen to God together? You've been amazed. I mean, some people that don't do that. And so all of these different practices that we can do together with other people that, yes, help us grow, but yet by doing these practices together, we get to experience God in a brand new way, and it gives us opportunities to connect. And so that's one thing that I help people do, especially pastors and counselors and leaders. It's one thing to do one-on-ones, and one-on-ones are great. I'm not complaining about that. I like to do one-on-ones. But when you can actually get people together in a group, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you really go, okay, let's really check in, guys. Like, what's going on? Let's practice interactive appreciation and share these stories. Okay, how would you like the group to best be with you in this right now? Wow, Bethany, we just found out that your vision and hearing is going. How can the group best be with you? Not, wow, and that happened to my grandma. Or just like, how would you like the group to best be with you? Can we just sit with you right now? Can we listen to God together with you as a group? Can we offer stories or advice if we've been in similar situations? Bethany, can we just sit in silence with you? Can we cry? Like, I feel like I'm going to cry right now. Not really, but I'm just saying in the group, like, can I just cry with you? And at that point, I'd be like, what? But I'm learning. I'm still learning. We all learn how to do that. Is what group looks like. And many people haven't experienced that. Like, okay, we understand you're hearing that. So let's go to the book of James and let's find the scripture that you need right now. No. And so I don't know if that transforms anybody, because those are the types of groups that I get to experience throughout my week. That's my regular everyday thing. And it's literally taking people to the throne of God and let's work this stuff out. And did things happen? Yes. But it's beautiful because everybody in that group has gotten to know one another and God work in amazing ways. They're not willing to leave the table. So you're finding people that have not gone through disruption that has ended well. They're used to like imagine growing up and having bad experiences with people yelling at you or just retreating to your room or not being able to work out relationships issues. Bringing all these together into a group with mature people that are practicing relationships well, that know how to listen to God, they can ask the hard questions and wrestle with the hard emotions and get to the other side and go, whoa, this is possible? It's like, where's this bit? And you can't do that with everybody. You can't. And so creating these atmospheres where we can just really do that well. And so that's what I see because I like to go deeper. But I don't know if this transcends anything to you. I don't know if you've experienced, I'm sure you have, Devin. I'm sure you've experienced groups kind of like this and practices like this.
Yeah, when it comes to the isolation part and how powerful community is, it seems like in our darkest moments is when the enemy tries to isolate us the most. When we're going through the biggest struggles, when the enemy seems to attack, the number one thing that he takes away from us in our mindset is, well, nobody cares. Nobody's there for me. And I just want to challenge people that I believe that that's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of hell. There are people there. And even when I went through the biggest struggles with my son of nobody could literally be around us. Nobody wanted to. It wasn't safe for them. And so I lost my family. I lost my relatives. I lost my friends. I lost relationships. I lost my marriage. Everything was gone. I literally had nothing, but I had God. And I did have people that when I needed them would be there, but just not always in the moment when I necessarily felt like I needed it the most. And I heard you say a couple of things. The first thing I heard you say was that when we're in those struggling moments of feeling alone and feeling withdrawn, is that is when we feel the most alone, and that maybe there's not people around us per se, but I want to say that what I happened to be doing was you talked about how you drop piece by piece when you're talking about boundaries of how to be able to trust somebody.
Yeah.
And what I was doing was I had so much heaviness. There was so much weight of what was going on with my son and I that I would just vomit it out. And it would be so heavy that people were like, whoa, I can't handle this. I can't carry this with you. And they would walk away. And the Lord showed me afterward. He said, Devin, you were asking people to carry a burden that I was supposed to be carrying with you. And while you were giving it to me, you were giving it to me and trying to give it to somebody else. And so what the Lord taught me in that was give it to the Lord first. Allow it to become lighter with the Lord. And then we do need community because we need human interaction. We need to voice it. We need to get it out. We need to release it in a human way and in a verbal way, processing with other people. But if we don't give it to the Lord first, it's too heavy for other people to carry.
Yeah.
And then the second
like
thing
that.
go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, when you're talking about giving it to the Lord, like, what does that I'm asking your curious questions, but what does that look like for you? Because people see that in different ways. Like, I know some people that I work with, they like, "Oh, yeah, I prayed about that today. I checked it off my list." I'm like, just when you're saying that, I'm like, "Oh, let's go deeper. Let's go."
Yeah.
I'm excited when people tell me that. But anyway, what does that look like when you say, "I gave it," and I'm sure it wasn't just a one-time thing either.
Yeah.
So can you share more about that? 'Cause I'm
Yeah,
curious.
yeah. For me, it was twofold. It depended on where I was at and what that moment looked like. So now I go for a walk as much as I can. I get out. I go for my mental health break, and I'll walk. And what I do is I literally just talk to God during that time. I speak out loud. If the neighbors are around, they probably think I'm crazy, but I don't care. But I have to be able to verbally vomit out to God, and I know that He can handle it. And then there's times where I couldn't. I needed to just go into my room, take myself away from the situation, and I needed to just close my eyes, and I needed to visually see myself, like you were talking about, visually see myself with Jesus, and literally laying it at His feet and speaking it out, giving it to Him. And that is the way that I believe the Word says that we should cast our things before Him is in a literal sense, even in our mindset and our spiritual eye.
I love that. So when you did that, and I just want to ask this because I'm putting it out there because it's my belief that when we come to God, there's not necessarily always going to be this peaceful resolution. Like, there's so many Psalms right there that are in the Bible that just lament, and just to leave it at lament, there wasn't, and God took care of David and made everything right again. Like, that's not there. Like, it's not. Like, and so to me, and what I'm hearing from you, what you're sharing, is as you're walking or as you're just sitting in the arms of Jesus, it's not like he goes, okay, Devin, I fixed everything for you. Way to go, man. Yes. It's more like it's a sorry, that's funny. Anyway, it's that relationship that you're building. And that same reality is something that we can go through with other people too. Is that when we're expecting them to be with us, it's not going to be like, okay, Devin, if we're talking right now and you share everything, I'm not going to be able to fix everything for you. And some people think that. They're like, they're going to give me the one piece of advice that I need that's going to make all this work. And we're expecting way too much. And so with both of our relationships there is the more we connect with God in that way and the more that we really have that deep relationship with him, I feel like we can offer that same to other people. That kind of makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe that a lot of people get confused with the word joy. The word joy, they think that it's that, because we're supposed to have joy in all of our trials. Well, that can't be an emotion. Because, hey, you know what? I just got done with a 30-minute restraint hold and I'm bleeding, he's bleeding, and I give it to the Lord. The last thing I am is joyful, as in like happy. Yay, here we are. Look at this struggle I got to go through. No, that's not it at all. When we understand that joy is a decision that we get to make, that everything is going to be okay, and that the Lord is victorious on the other side of it. And I get to walk through this with him because he never leaves me, never forsakes me. I get to carry his influence on my back, and we get to do this together. And I love that this book that you wrote, The Joy Catcher, is out there for people to be able to get. And we were actually going to surprise you with this, and we may still be able to. But Jacoby read that book this weekend, and we were going to record a video, but he didn't like the results of it. So we're gonna do it, and I wanted to be able to share that here on this show, and so we'll get that before before the show gets out. To just he really loved it, and really loved the things that you've gone through, and being able to reflect that joy, because he now carries that type of joy with him and wanting to be able to help other people. And so, your powerful story and the things that you share inside of this book, for, teens and for kids to be able to recognize the joy, is very important. So do you want to share anything about your book quick?
Yeah. Well, wow. Between all that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to see the video. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to come back. Okay. Two things. One, can we define joy? Because I don't know how you define joy, but joy to me is the experience of knowing that God and people are glad to be with me no matter what. So Devin, I believe that we have a joy relationship. So I feel like I can come to you with almost anything and you wouldn't be like, oh, I can't. No. You know what I'm saying? It's a joy to be with each other no matter what. You have people in there, you have God that are in those opportunities where it's like, okay, we're not going to expect to hear on the other side, wow, I can't be with you if you're going to say that. We still have boundaries, but that joy is the goodness of knowing that we have people in our lives that we could just be ourselves with, and they can be with us through anything that we walk through. That's what I'm hearing in your story, Devin, as well. And so about the joy catcher pivot, about the joy catcher, was kind of that. Like in this book, it's a story about me and my grandpa, and I wanted to be like my brothers and catch a ball. And with my short right arm, that didn't make any sense and wasn't happening. And my grandpa was like, that's not going to stop you. Like, let's figure this out together. And this is a real story. It wasn't quite, there's pictures of my grandpa in the book, like jumping in the air. I'm like, that would have been awesome, but that's not accurate. So the second that, but just to have that moment of somebody that believed in me for who I was, not for who I could be. I mean, that's there too. But he saw me in that moment, who I was. He wanted to be with me. He wasn't going to treat me anywhere different, but he saw what was in me and he saw the desires. And he's like, okay, we can't make it happen necessarily the way you're thinking, but what if we learn to think of this in a different way? I'm going to be with you regardless. So that's what I really want to get across. And put the physical challenges in there, put the struggle in there, put how the girl felt in there, put how other people sometimes feel like in there. And that's one line that's in there that's really important is that, oh, I forgot exactly how it goes, but it's that reality of how the girl saw herself change that day, but how she gets to define herself is not up to you. You don't get to decide that. And just the reality of ourselves too is that when we really have our identity built in, ingrained, no matter what happens to us, no matter how many people may interact and maybe see us in a different way because of the challenges that they walk through, we don't have to take that on ourselves. We decide how we get to show up in the world because of what God is doing and working through us. And hopefully we have the right people around us that can remind us of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so good. It's so good. And so one of the things I hear you saying, we wrap up this section of it, is that isolation is really the enemy of influence. And you talk about how your grandpa was there and that he would be there to be able to work through things and be able to figure this out and how to do all these different things. And then as we're entrepreneurs, as we're speakers, as we're coaches, ministers, whatever that is that we got to have the right people around us to being able to do it. And I believe one of the lies that leaders believe is that leadership is a lonely road. And
Yeah.
I don't believe that that's fully true. I believe it can be, but I believe that as leaders, we get to decide who's around us and how open we are with those people on a daily, on a weekly, on a monthly. I know that I have high-end leaders that I could call at any moment and they would
Yeah.
pick up their phone and they would be there. Why? Because we have a relationship. Do we talk every day? No. Do we talk every week? No. Do we talk every month? Maybe, but probably not. And then I have other people that I do talk to on a daily basis. I do talk to on a weekly basis. And so there are different avenues. And so just because you're in leadership doesn't mean that it has to be lonely. It's what you choose to do with those relationships that takes you to the next level, because you are who you hang around. And the more and the better people that you hang around, the
Mhm.
better you're going to be.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know if it was you, Devin, I feel like we had a conversation somewhat about this, about that we should have like 3 types of people in our life. One that's a step ahead, one that's actually with us, and one that's with. So having those 3, that's one thing that I often go back to. Okay, who's my 3? And not that I had that key people, but sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I could be like, okay, I've got some people up here and I got some people with me. Oops. Like, wait a second. There's people that I could be mentoring. There's people that can need me to be in that way, or vice versa. And so it's not just about necessarily having those people that are just with you. It's like, okay, you want to be with those people too, but also where do they rank? And then also, how much energy do you have? There's some people like Devin that are amazing energy wise. And I don't know, but anyway, I know you are. But for me, and there's just certain energy levels that I have. And so with me, I need certain types of people. So I'll have some people that I reach out to during some of my times, but I'll have a totally different people or others. So it's really that experiment, and to give yourself grace. We're all trying to figure this out, right? And to give ourselves grace to people who are still barking around the same journey that you are and experiencing different things. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And yes, it does. There we need to have people that we're following. We need to have people that we're doing life with, and then we need to have people that we're leading. And you should have 5 in each of those areas. That is true discipleship. Um, and ways to be able to live our lives. And there are certain areas. I remember I was at this conference and having the calling that I have in my life. Sometimes I say things that other people think that they should say, but tend to voice it. And I was at this conference, and this big name speaker was walking around, and he was just bashing divorce, and he was talking about how you should never be remarried, and that you're living a sinful life, and that you deserve to basically be going through these struggles because you chose that. And there was a question and answer time at the end, and I raised my hand and I said, "Sir, have you ever been divorced?" And he said, "Well, absolutely not." And I said, "How can you speak to the emotions and to what God says about divorce if you've never been through it?" And he said, "Well, it's based on what the word of God says. And God says he hates divorce." And I said, so God says he hates divorce. he also says he hates sin. And so is sin and divorce simultaneous or not? He said, well, no, not necessarily. And I said, okay, so I suggest talk about things that you have experienced and that you have revelation from God in, rather than your assumption of what you assume God has said to you about this, because you're completely wrong. There are ways and there are reasons why you should be able to leave your marriage. Hence, my ex-wife having an affair. That's a very good reason when she did not want to reconcile. What am I supposed to do? God's just going to hate me for the rest of my life, according to what he was saying. And that's not true at all. But the label that was put on me at that moment was, oh, you're divorced. You'll never be a leader in the church again. And that was a lie, an absolute lie. God told me that your identity comes from the Creator, not the creation. And when we recognize that, we're able to continue to walk forward. And so it's recognizing that there's certain people in your life that you share certain things differently with.
Yeah.
You know, you and I have conversations about being single parent. We get it. To where other leaders, they'll never understand that. And they'll be like, well, what do you mean you're not coming to this event? Well, my son has nobody else here. Like, I can't just leave him with the other person because there's nobody else here.
Exactly. Yes. That's and that's true. And I think like that reality of coming to terms with, okay, like we have these, you and I, like that example of single parenting. We have that because we've shared it. I wouldn't have known that unless you were, share that with me and stuff. And so the same thing about the whole what you mentioned about, and what I love that, Devin. There's so many curiosity questions I have about that conversation that you had about divorce. Oh my gosh. I would have loved to be with you. But my question is why you, when you did that, and definitely you had the identity in you, but then did you have other people around you? Or was that something that you did like solo? Or did you feel like, okay, like once I do this, like I have people that I can like have in my corner that can remind me like, okay, like, I'm in a good place.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And a lot of times I pick it up. All I can say is I pick it up in the room. I feel it.
Mm.
And there's been a number of times I was at an invite only apostolic fathering event with these leaders, church leaders, ministry leaders from around the world. And like, I mean, I have this guy next to me who's got like 100,000 whatever people, churches. And then I have this another guy who's got 7-figure businesses every year. And then there's me, like a 32-year-old that's like, why am I here? And we were talking about the state of the church and where the church was today. And literally the whole first day we argued about what is the definition of the word ecclesia. And that ecclesia is different than church. It's the battle that we go through. It's the governmental function of it. And all of that to say that by the end of it, we came to no conclusion at all. And so day 2 started, and they're like, okay, so now that we have this, and I said, I was thinking if I'm the only one here, but we're leaving here without a definition of what the heck this actually is. Well, Devin, if you'd like to talk to us afterwards, some of us leaders, we'd be more than happy to talk to you. But we have a pretty good definition. I had, out of the 40 people that were in there, about 10 to 15 people come up to me and say, wow, that was really good for you to say that, because we are definitely not on the same page. And I'm like, bro, like, you're a big name person. Open up your mouth and say it's your status. Go, look at me over here doing this, like making a fool out of myself. But it's so important that, for me, sometimes as influential leaders, we have to be the voice to those people who are either afraid, or they don't feel like they have a voice, or maybe they just don't know how to say it. And sometimes, this is probably the biggest one, people don't know what they don't know. And so they're like, oh, you're right. I don't know if I know the definition of that. You know what? I don't really know what God does feel about divorce. I don't really know anything of that. And so we get to be the voice to the voiceless in those opportunities.
Well, and what I'm hearing from you too, Devin, is the idea of value in all of this is that we know how much we're worth because of our relationship with God, because of our relationship with others, and because we know, not just know, I would even go as far as to say experiencing that value, not only with God, but with other people when we purposely put ourselves in that, when we are in those environments, like you said, and we are in those where we're like, okay, do I take the risk? Because I don't know what's going to happen. My peeps not around me. This is a totally different environment. but yet you don't need them to define your worth
Mm.
because you got God and you got those stones of remembrance, right? That you've been creating with all of those people that have over and over and over again showed you that reality, showed you that truth. So you're bringing all of that into this moment. So they probably could have, which I'm glad they didn't. They could have probably just blasted you if they wanted to. But my thing is you would have had like, wait a second, you might have had that struggle, but that's happened once versus these cyclical events with these people that you've trusted that have constantly reminded you, no, Devin, this is your value. No, Devin, this is your identity. And you got God as well. And when you have both of those versus one time, you tell me what's going to come up. So that's how important this community is. That's how important this relationship with God is because it reinforces our value. And because we believe that we are valuable, we can also offer that in our presentation to other people. So you weren't like slamming them, right? You didn't have to make your point across, but it was one of those things like, hey, I'm offering this and I don't need you to like say it's right or wrong or anything. I'm just saying this is what it is. So I really like the way that you mentioned all that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, this has been a great conversation. It's been great things. And hopefully, people listening, hopefully you have taken some influential tips away from this, some keys, some teaching moments, and you've taken some notes from the things that Bethany has shared and opened up her heart and been vulnerable about. So Bethany, if people want to be in touch with you, or if you have something to give to them, how can they be in touch and what you got?
Yeah, so there's always something going on, but right now on BethanyBoring.com is just my grandiose links page because just like Devin, I'm always up to doing something. And it's just my page of throwing everything out there. But the one thing that people really love is on the very top of that page, there is a 7 steps to creating an effective group. And it's just breaking down the 7 steps. A lot of times you don't think like, okay, I want to do this group on this. Do we really think it through all the way? Do we really invite God into that process? And what does that look like? And how do you know if it's really effective or not? Just because people show up doesn't mean that your group is really meeting the goals that you wanted it to meet, right? We're talking about how does it really look to have a safe community? Well, sometimes we're looking for something that isn't there. And so God's calling us to pave the way. So is God calling you to pave the way? If you don't have the relationships that Devin and I talked about, maybe God's calling you to a different level. And that's also what TIP community groups do is we actually sit down with people on a week-to-week basis, the same group for 6 months, and we teach people how to do interactive appreciation. We teach people how to check in. We teach people how to share their story and what that really looks like and sit with others in theirs without fixing. That is a process, and it can only be learned through experience. I'm just going to leave that there. So that is some stuff that I have. The workbook is completely free. Podcast is completely free. But yeah, tip groups and some of the groups that I offer does have a cost, but it's an amazing experience for those who especially have never experienced that and want to create groups like that.
I love it. I love it. And we'll drop all the links down below in the description. We'll drop ways to be able to contact with YouTube and the podcast and all those things as well. All right. So we're at the end. What's the one thing that you want people to leave with? This is your mic drop moment for people to say, dang, I'll never forget her.
Okay. Mic drop moment. First of all, Devin's amazing, but that's not the whole mic drop moment. The thing that I want people to walk away with is that a lot of people think beauty is what it looks like on the outside. But true beauty, when you really go into the Bible definition of it, it's really about what God is doing, both inherently, but also inherently inside of us. And when we really know that, we define and redefine the way that others really come into connection with God. And that is really what beauty, that's what agape love and beauty really do look like, is the joy of being with other people no matter what. And so my mic drop moment is we are called to do more than just survive in this world. There's way too many amazing survivors, but I truly believe that God has called us to thrive through Him receiving impossible victories every day by experiencing His beauty. And so my question to you is, are you ready to go chase beauty? And are you doing that well in your life? We got this.
Wow. That's so good. That's so good. Thank you, Bethany, for sharing all those things with us and challenging us to take our influence to the next level from the inside out. And for those of you listening, for those of you watching, remember that your influence begins with your identity. Let God speak first to you and then through you. Don't wait to be invited to go into another room, but go yourself and find the right people. Find that community, people that you can be open with and vulnerable with. And remember that you are valuable, because when somebody tells you no, it means that you get to take a reflection of yourself inside and say, okay, what does God say? And what he says matters. So this isn't just another show. This isn't just another episode. This is actually your invitation to walk in truth, to build your circle of influence, to step forward with the confidence that you are to walk in, because there's people like myself, there's people like Bethany that are out there waiting for you to step into your fullness of influence. And so for today, school is dismissed, but your influence never takes a day off. So stay bold, stay focused, and go and leave your legacy. Thanks, guys. Bye.